we were told the LGBTQ movement was about equal rights. We were assured they had no interest in our kids. Now comes President Biden's Equality Act. But it's not equality. It's harmful ideology aimed at our kids, placing transgenderism into civil rights law, while kids are groomed at schools and government pushes sex change surgeries and hormone blockers on minors.
These are our kids.
While parents' rights are being taken away, even made illegal.
Not somebody else's kids, they're all our kids.
Believe them when they say they're coming for your children. Sign the petition to stop them today at protectkids.app.
Okay, welcome back. Thursday, 13 July, year of Lord 2023, for the second hour of our late afternoon, early evening edition of War Room. You're in the battleground aspect of this. I want to bring in Terry Schilling. Terry, from American Principles Project, once again, a incredibly powerful ad, but more than an ad, something you're doing. I've got, Harry Meat from Liberty Counsel, Jackie Toboroff, one of the leaders of the moms movement up in the battleground of Manhattan. This is not Gateway Pundit saying this. This is not Breitbart saying this, or a Revolver News, National Pulse. You pick it. That ad, you took the footage. That is the people involved in this movement on their side, and their quote and their chant from their pride parades was, "We are coming for your children." That was not written by Terry Schilling or Steve Bannon. Is that correct?
That's correct, Steve. And the scary but also beautiful thing about where we are today with the LGBT movement is that we just have to hold up a mirror. We don't have to speculate. We don't have to write up what we think they're going to do next. They're telling us what they're going to do next. They're doing what they're doing next. They are passing laws right now in blue states to criminalize being a parent, to criminalize parents who protect their kids from gender ideology. Washington State, California, Minnesota, for example, they have laws on the books where they will take your children away from you if they think you don't support them transitioning their sex or getting a sex change procedure. It's that bad, Steve. And there needs to be political consequences to everyone that supports this, but not just supports it, for everyone that's not doing anything to stop it, right? This is the problem with evil in this country, is that the good guys aren't doing anything to stop it. Our elected officials, our heroes, are just standing by. And there's like Chris Christie, right? He said that this is a parental rights issue. This isn't a parental rights issue. It isn't a parental rights issue any more than giving your kids porn is, or giving your kids alcohol or cigarettes. This is a basic decency of society issue. And we can't allow our children to be mutilated and sterilized.
Talk about it, because we got Harry on, we got Jackie. I got three warriors all in a row today to discuss this, or aspects of this, but it's all the same thing. It's this kind of cultural revolution that Mao Zedong ran in China in the 1960s to break the traditional family and to use the children to do that. Probably one of the most evil concepts ever. But talk about, like, this law is already passed in the state of Washington where, the schools can know this, the school counselors can know it. And if the parents put up any kind of objections to this, the kids can be taken away and put into kind of these homes for, transgender children. Talk to us about what's already on the books and how it's even it's building momentum now.
Well, there are laws on the books in California, Washington State, and Minnesota, and there are more states introducing this, such as my home state of Illinois, where it doesn't actually only apply just to citizens of that state. The state can actually, so first of all, they can keep all this information from you. So if your kid tells a teacher or a school counselor that they're transgender and they identify as a different sex or a different being, and they can identify as animals now today, the school does not have to tell the parents. And in fact, some of these states ban the school from telling the parents because they've adopted this gross, evil lie that parents are a threat to their children, right? This is something that, as you pointed out rightfully, Mao Zedong, all the tyrants, all the worst tyrants of the world that have slaughtered hundreds of millions of people, they always divide the children against the parents. And they do that by taking advantage of kids in their teenage years. So you're developing your independence in those years, and they're weaponizing it against parents. They should be empowering parents. These schools, by the way, are doing a nightmare of a job educating our kids. Our kids are illiterate. 32% of fourth graders in this country can read at grade level. Meanwhile, I bet they're pretty fluent in how many gender identities there are and critical race theory and all of that. This is an absolute nightmare, and it stems from the top all the way down. It's the federal government pushing this through grant programs, and they're pushing it all the way to the local level. It's really tough to see how we fix this without getting a new president in there that weaponizes the federal government against these bad actors that are tearing our families apart.
How aggressive is it now when they feel emboldened enough? I mean, they're chanting in these parades, "We are coming for your children." That's their chant, right? Not written by Terry Schilling, not written by Steve Bannon. That comes from them, correct?
Correct. And here's the thing, Steve. They're saying this openly. Why? Why are they doing that? There's no consequences. There are no consequences to saying this stuff. The corporate media will not hold these people accountable. They won't ask. Listen, if there was a bunch of pro-family people out there talking about subjecting their wives or, doing something really terrible that I would have to, respond to, you can bet that CNN would call me up. You can bet that MSNBC would call, all the liberal media outlets out there would call us up and demand that we disavow that. Who's calling up Kelly Robinson from the Human Rights Campaign and demanding that she disavows these statements that they're coming for kids? Who's calling up the Transgender Law Center? Who's calling up the Trevor Project and telling them to stop weaponizing the government against parents and families? No one. There's no consequences to it, and they're showing their full hand. The only consequence, Steve, that we can really do that they will understand forcefully is elect a new president who pledges to get rid of this agenda and actually deliver on it like President Trump did with everything else that he did in his first term.
What is your call to action here? What is your call to action from your ad? What are you trying to get people to do right now?
They have to. So what we're doing is there's a petition. You can sign it, AmericanPrinciplesProject.org/petitions. We want to direct everyone that we can to contact their legislators, specifically your federal legislators and the presidential candidates, and demand that they speak out against this and support the legislation that's on the books to protect parental rights. The real problem here, Steve, is not that the Democrats are evil. The evil's always going to exist. Democrats have always been evil in this country. But the problem is that Republicans aren't doing enough to stop this. You're seeing this momentum building with people like Chris Christie and Mike Pence and Asa Hutchinson. They're dismissing protecting kids from this stuff. They're dismissing protecting parental rights. They're calling this stuff book bans. They're Republicans. They're supposed to be on our side. They're supposed to be on our team. We need to hold the Republicans accountable for not doing anything and abetting our enemies. That is what they are doing, and we need to get rid of these people and put pressure on them to support legislation that will protect parental rights and protect our children from all of these atrocities that the left wants to commit against them.
Talk to me about Pence, Christie, and Asa Hutchinson. I just want the audience to understand. How are they framing this?
Well, Pence is actually, he supports protecting kids, but he had a weak answer in an interview a few weeks ago about what to do to protect adults from this stuff. You got to allow these guys to sue, right? They got to be able to take action for exploiting. But Chris Christie just last week said that he doesn't want to ban this stuff. He doesn't want to ban sex changes for minors. He thinks that should be a parent's decision to make. Steve, this is insane. Parents don't have rights to do this stuff. They have rights to control everything, but the doctors, the hospitals, big pharma, they don't have rights to exploit your children. Steve, the most evil lie that these people tell the parents is they say that this is life-saving care, and if you don't affirm your kid's gender, if you don't get them on cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers and mutilate their bodies, that they will commit suicide. They emotionally blackmail them into these procedures, and it's the most evil thing I think I've seen in a very long time. And we need to restrict the access and the rights of the doctors, the pharmaceutical companies, the medical associations, and the hospitals from being able to profit and exploit our children by sexually mutilating them and sterilizing them.
Terry, I'm going to ask you to hang on. I want to play the spot again, not right now, but I want you to hang on. I want to bring on Harry Meat, Liberty Counsel. Harry, you guys are one of the bastions of standing up for a lot of this madness and defending people and talking about religious liberty and against the Southern Poverty Law Center. Tell me what you're working on right now, because I think people look to you and your team as one of the leaders in this effort.
Well, Steve, there's nothing new under the sun. And I think it was Vladimir Lenin who said, give me one generation of youth and I'll change the world. And so what we're seeing now play out here in this country is what we've seen play out in communist countries like Romania, where I grew up, where the government is determined to indoctrinate children, to separate them ideologically from their parents, and to take the place of their parents when it comes to bringing up children and instilling values in them. And so that's what we're seeing happening here. We're way past the just let us live in peace and just tolerate us stages of this movement, where now we see a full-blown assault on the family, on the autonomy of the parents with respect to bringing up their children. And I couldn't agree with Terry more. It's high time for sensible, common sense people to stand up and to say no to this nonsense, because they are coming after our children. We have to take them at their word. When they tell us that they're coming after our children,
yeah.
You got to take them at their word.
That's where the chant is. We're coming after you. Hang on for 1 second, though. I want to just make sure, because you're from Romania, and I keep using Mao Zedong, and you just brought up that great quote from Lenin. Just from your personal experience, and this is at the core of atheistic Marxist ideology from time immemorial, from the French Revolution, but transition to the 20th century, Lenin, Mao, Romania under the Soviet Union, and here in the United States of America. That is what this is. That is why these library associations, I think it was the other day, one of the groups, I think it was in one of the states, library broke off from the union because they said, hey, the library association, their library pulled out their local library association because they said, hey, the head of the National Library Association is an avowed Marxist, and she's proud of being a Marxist. This is the core to atheistic Marxist ideology, to focus on the children, to destroy the nuclear family. And your way to destroy the nuclear family is you weaponize the children against their mothers and fathers. Is that was the lesson of what Lenin in Romania in the 20th century taught us about Marxism?
Absolutely. And, they've been upfront about it this whole time. They've acknowledged it as their chosen strategy to go after the children, to go after the next generation. And in this country, for the last few decades, when people on the right had warned that this is where the movement would ultimately lead, they were always dismissed as fearmongers, as bigots and intolerant folks, and only to now have this come full circle to exactly what Lenin and his comrades advocated all along. I lived through this in Romania. I grew up there. First 12 years of my life, I lived under this oppressive and repressive regime. And it did all that it could to indoctrinate us as children into the ways of Lenin and of communism, and specifically to drive a wedge between us and our parents. Now here where we see these groups in school trying to tell children that they can change genders without telling their parents about it, to remove them from the positive influences of their parents. This isn't a new strategy. This is right out of the Lenin communist Marxist playbook, and it's happening all over again here.
Talk to us about Liberty Counsel. You're one of the best groups out there. America's Principal Project. You guys are fighters. Well, tell me what you're working on. I want to specifically bring up the Southern Poverty Law Center, because that group is a poison, and they spread poison nonstop, sir.
That's right. So obviously these groups now have found their weapon with Southern Poverty Law Center, the self-appointed ministers of tolerance and truth. They've developed quite a racket with this hateful hate group labeling scheme, where they slap this hate group label on anyone that ideologically disagrees with them. So people that still advocate for traditional family values, man-woman marriage, boys being boys and girls being girls. All of these groups are being labeled as hate groups by the Southern Poverty Law Center, lumped in with the KKK, with the Nazis, with actual hate groups without any effort to discriminate between the two. And then the Southern Poverty Law Center peddles this as fact, as well-researched and documented fact, to the woke corporations and to government agencies who are quite happy to use this supposedly, rigorous scientific factual studies to punish, to come after these so-called hate groups. And so Southern Poverty Law Center, makes a lot of money in this business, and these labels are not just false; they are outright dangerous. We've had documented cases, including in 2013, when a deranged fan of the Southern Poverty Law Center attempted to commit mass murder at Family Research Council's headquarters in Washington, D.C. Fortunately, he was apprehended. He was able to hurt only the security guard there. He was apprehended before he could murder people, which is what he intended to do. And he admitted that he chose his target because it had been designated as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Center. It had been put on a map, on a so-called hate map, by the Southern Poverty Law Center. And so it's clear that these labels are inciting people to actual violence. So they're false and they're dangerous. And so now we have a lawsuit against the Southern Poverty Law Center on behalf of the Dustin Inman Society, a pro-legal immigration and anti-illegal immigration mainstream group that only uses lawful means to advocate for the enforcement of our immigration laws. They were labeled as a anti-immigration hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. And so now we have a defamation case against the SPLC. And what's really noteworthy here is that the case has already survived a motion to dismiss in federal court in Alabama. And this is critical because up until now, the Southern Poverty Law Center had been able to escape legal accountability and liability by claiming in court that its labeling of groups as hate groups is merely an opinion protected by the First Amendment that can't be proven true or false. That's what they say in court. Even though in actuality, when they peddle these hate maps and these so-called studies and research findings, they don't peddle them as opinion. They peddle them as facts. The Alabama court has recognized that there is a potential claim here for defamation, has denied a motion to dismiss, and has allowed this case to go to discovery, where now we will have a chance to demonstrate with the Southern Poverty's own documents and statements that they are in fact defaming groups such as the Dustin Inman Society, that they're doing so knowingly, and they're doing so in violation of the law and without the protections of the First Amendment.
No, this is a racket, and the corporations and the media like the racket because they go and make up the stuff and then they use it as based in fact. This is because they present themselves as an authoritative, review agent, like an account, the guys that opine on bond ratings. Right? They say it's complete fact, and then when you guys press them, oh no, this is just our opinion. So you've outed them already. How long is it going to take to get through it? Because this is a monumental. People should understand the Southern Poverty Law Center is like Mark Elias. These are one of these small things around there that are huge, have massive impacts. Elias in rigging elections, and Southern Poverty Law Center and trying to suppress voices. Like the American Principles Project and Terry Schilling and many thousands of others. What's the timing on this? Discovery will be quite interesting, but what's the timing on this?
Yeah, so they've got hundreds of millions of dollars in their war chest that they've amassed, and so we expect vigorous opposition from them. We expect them to oppose us and to fight us at every turn. We expect them to resist in discovery, turning over their documents and their communications that will demonstrate that they violated the law on this issue. And so it could be contentious and it could be lengthy. It may take as long as a year or two or more. But however long it takes, we are determined to bring to light their misdeeds and to hold them legally accountable for them in a court of law. It's critically important because these labels are not only inflicting financial harm. from these, virtue signaling woke corporations that are blacklisting, and banks are refusing to do business. Tech companies are refusing to demonetizing people on social media. I mean, you've experienced it yourself, and everyone on this side of the aisle knows exactly what I'm talking about. So this is financially very damaging for the victims of the Southern Poverty Law Center's defamation. But we also know that beyond financial hardships and damage, these are outright dangerous labels that incite people to actual violence. And so they must be stopped. And we're committed to doing that through this lawsuit, however long it takes.
Harry, how do people find out more about that? Because you guys are the tip of the spear in this fight. How do they find out more about Liberty Counsel?
I'd invite them to visit our website at lc.org. lc.org. You're absolutely right, Steve. We are at the forefront and on the front lines of just about every major critical battle of our day, whether it's government vaccine mandates, whether it's COVID shutdowns that kept us really, really busy. We've had a lot of success, whether it's discrimination against people of faith and particularly Christians all over this nation, whether it's standing up for the sanctity of human life and for the family. All of the issues that matter, Liberty Counsel is on the front lines. We do it all the time, absolutely pro bono, without charging at all for our services. And so we rely on donations from goodwill Americans, common sense Americans that still care about these values and this country. We'd invite them to read about us at lc.org, to get engaged in the issues and on the cases that we're working on, and to partner with us to support us in the various fights that we are taking on.
Harry, what's your social media? How can people follow you?
Liberty Counsel on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. We're everywhere, and we'd welcome people to join us.
Harry, you're fighting the good fight, and you're doing God's work. Thank you, and thank the team over there at Liberty Counsel from the War Room. Great work.
Thank you, Steve, for helping us to get the word out, and for your work on these important issues as well.
I got the easy job. All we got to do is we just have the platform and let guys like you come on, the fighters. So thank you. Thank everybody over on your team.
Take care, sir.
Schilling, how big is the fight against Southern Poverty Law Center, sir?
It's huge. Southern Poverty Law Center, their tentacles are everywhere, and they literally determine, they're like a gatekeeper. They determine who's allowed to be on the news, who's allowed to speak publicly. There are a lot of ramifications. Who's allowed to hold their job, right? They can get you fired, and they can make you an outcast. They can make it so that if you work for one of the groups on the hate list, you'll never get another job ever again working for corporate America or anywhere else. It's absolutely important and critical that we take these people down, because they have caused so much damage. If the mass shooting attempt at Family Research Council wasn't enough, it's the fact that they're getting everyone fired and keeping really good, honest people from being able to speak their minds and get the truth out to the voters.
And their weapon is fear. It's fear and intimidation. A lot of people cower to that. We're going to play. By the way, I went Memphis. We're going to go out for the last minute. We're going to go out with his ad. One more time, Terry, where do people go to find out more about American Principles Project? Because you guys are fighting this fight every day of the week. Where do they go?
It's just AmericanPrinciplesProject.org/petitions, and you can sign that petition, and we're going to make sure that you get in contact with all of your elected officials and representatives to make sure that they actually take action to protect our families and protect our kids. They can't just stay silent anymore.
Terry, you're a fighter. Keep fighting, brother. Say hi to everybody over the American
Thanks,
Principles.
Steve.
You guys are heroes. Heroes. Let's
Thanks,
get up
man.
Jackie. Jackie, you're fighting this fight in probably the hardest part of the country to fight it, in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Tell us about that fight.
So we're amidst a nightmare. I apologize for my voice. We are amidst a nightmare, and very few parents have any idea what is coming to schools this September. There are two things that are happening. So New York State Department of Education is making the focus on gender affirmation. They're starting preschool, pre-kindergarten and up. That means 2.5 years old and up. They're going to help them transition. They're going to plant seeds of doubt about their sexuality. Imagine a 2.5 2.5-year-old, and then they are going to help conceal it from the parent. I reported on this in Human Events a couple of weeks ago. They are supposed to rely on a trusted adult while they are concealing it from their parent. Simultaneously, America's largest teachers union has been required to read over the summer gender queer. So who do you think the trusted adult of this 2.5-year-old is going to be? It's going to be someone who is primed on gender queer. This is as 2/3 of our nation's children are below 4th grade level proficient in math and reading.
Talk to me. I got about a minute. You're going to hold through the break. I'll play the ad on the other side. Give me this again about the 2.5-year-olds. What's going to happen here?
So, New York State Department of Education is making the focus on gender affirmation come September. And they're starting, it's affecting every single school in New York State, whether it is public school, independent school, religious school, pre-K, all the way up through grade school. No one is exempt, no color, no race, no religion, no gender. It's affecting everyone.
Jackie, just hang here for 1 second. We're going to take a short commercial break. I hope your head is blowing up, because this is one of the biggest fights of our time. This is exactly how the Marxists have always done it. They come for the family, and they come for the family through the children. We're going to pick it up with Jackie Toboroff from Manhattan, New York City, when we return in the War Room.
With Stephen K. Bannon.
We were told the LGBTQ movement was about equal rights. We were assured they had no interest in our kids. Now comes President Biden's Equality Act. But it's not equality. It's harmful ideology aimed at our kids, placing transgenderism into civil rights law, while kids are groomed at schools and government pushes sex change surgeries and hormone blockers on minors.
These are our kids.
While parents' rights are being taken away, even made illegal.
Not somebody else's kids, they're all our kids.
Believe them when they say they're coming for your children. Sign the petition to stop them today at protectkids.app.
As you know, one of my life's work is assisting the Lao Beijing of China to take down the Chinese Communist Party because of their brutal dictatorship over the Chinese people, the great noble Chinese people, which still don't have any democratic rights. In my love for the Chinese people, I've obviously been to China since, I don't know, like 76, 77. I was there in the Navy and have studied it ever since. One of the things they don't talk about, it's verboten to talk about or to teach in China today, is the Cultural Revolution. And why? The Chinese family, the Chinese particularly, put so much emphasis on the traditional family, ancestor worship, the whole concept of family. And Mao Zedong and that kind of evilness of Marxism, of atheistic Marxism, understand to really control society. Now, this has been in power for, 20 years? He wasn't making the progress he felt. He needed to break the traditional family. And he used the children and he used the schools to do that. These stories that came out of there are so horrific. I can't even talk about it on in a show that goes out over the years and for families to hear. We are seeing that same playbook today. We're seeing the exact same playbook today. Right there, you heard the chant. We are coming for. They're up in your grill. That was, I think, a protest in New York City. We are coming for your children. That's their chant. And in the ad part, the voiceover from the script, which Terry Schilling, those guys have made this, they say that they're grooming at the schools. Well, don't take my word for it. That's just a fact. This is not Steve Bannon. Remember, this is not my line of country. The reason we do this, that it is such a massive issue, and it must be addressed. Jackie Toboroff, you are actually at the front lines of this. I just want to make sure, because New York City gets very little coverage because the media there is suppresses everything of the truth. That's why you have all these great new sites up that kind of get to the to try to get the truth out. But I want you to go back. What's going to happen in September as dictated by the education department, the state of New York, to the children? And then talk to me about what the teachers union's studying over the summer break.
Okay, so as you say all the time, there are no coincidences. What happened was 3 weeks ago, a friend of mine who's in public school, sent me the latest mission. And what that is New York State Department of Education, come this September, this coming school year, will be focused on gender affirmation. By the way, that means nothing. Who even knows what gender affirmation means? But anyway, what they mean by gender affirmation is they will be helping all children starting in pre-kindergarten. That means 2.5, 2.5-year-olds and up in any school in New York State learn to identify. They will be seeded with doubt about their sexuality, their biological sex, and then the seed to transition will be planted, and they will be helped to conceal it from the parents. There is an entire table of contents in this mission on how you identify people and what happens if you identify them incorrectly. Parents can get in a lot of trouble, by the way. They are supposed to rely on trusted adults, the 2.5-year-olds and up. This is coming to independent schools and to public schools. There will be no child left alone. Now, weeks after I reported on this, the largest teachers union in America has made for summer reading requirement the book Gender Queer. So who do you think the trusted adult is going to be helping this 2.5-year-old? It is going to be some teacher who has not spent time figuring out how to help kids with math or science or history or reading. It is going to be someone that has been studying the 800 fake genders.
Jackie, you've got a book out. You do reporting at human events and other places. Walk through all the touch points people can get, because you're at the forefront of this fight, and so much is happening in New York. New York's a leader culturally, financially, all that. They've suppressed the information from getting out because they're trying to do this under the cover of night. Otherwise, they'd be out bragging about it. Look what we're doing. They understand that the American people are not going to tolerate it. And quite frankly, the Chinese immigrants and the Hispanic immigrants in Queens, Brooklyn, they're not going to tolerate it. Once they understand what's going on, they are not going to tolerate this at all. This is one of the biggest political issues of our time. Jackie, how did they get to all the information around you?
Before I talk about my book, which is Supermoms Activated, can I just tell you one other breaking story that has to do with the whole transgender thing in New York City?
Sure.
Okay, there is a private school. I just was quoted in the Post on this, and actually now one of the board members has resigned. Browning School is a single-sex, all-boys school. It costs $62,000 annually per student. It was founded in 1888. Well, in 2023, its commitment to transitioning and transgenderism may mean it is finished, along with a lot of other private schools. They have decided to allow transgenders to enter the all-boy school. So one board member has resigned to date.
It's shocking. I put this up when I saw you were quoted, and I put it up in the New York Post. I put it up on Getter the other day and say, this is the collapse. Once again, I've had Rasmussen all week to talk about the collapse of institutions. Browning's an institution in New York City and Manhattan as far as for the formation of the character of young men. And this is what they're doing. Jackie, how did they get the book? How did they get to all your reporting?
This is my book. I'm going to be like Dr. Navarro. Supermoms Activated. Please get it. We have Kimberly Fletcher. Sorry. I love him. I have to copy him. We have Callie Fontanilla, Tina Deskovich, Samara Armstrong, Sandra Witten, Astra Namani, Kimberly Fletcher, Sarah Gonzalez, Madeline Braham, Yadin Shu, Lindsay Cole, Julie Gunlock, and Olivia Barnard. All of these people, these supermoms, have lit the match that started the Prairie Fire. And I will say this about Browning. All of this stuff that's happening there is because parents have spoken out. Even in crazy New York City, parents are not taking it anymore. This is the panacea to gender queer. Get yourself Supermoms Activated so you can find out what to do when September rolls around, because it is going to hit you in the face, and you need to be armed with this book.
This is going to be one of the biggest political movements in our country, because you're going to have many moderate, independent, and liberal parents are saying, hey, whoa. I'm a liberal, but I never signed up for this. because you're trying to take effect and destroy the thing that's closest to my heart, which is my children. This is going to be massive. Jackie, thanks for fighting the fight, and thanks for fighting it in New York City, in Manhattan.
Thank you.
Ben Harnwell, I want to pivot now to the scam of scams. I want to set the stage here. The National Defense Authorization Act is a firestorm. I can announce I don't think it's going to be passed this week. And quite frankly, the Democrats are reporting they don't think it's going to be passed at all. This is a huge win for us if it holds out. But one of the reasons it's a win is because they're reporting of Ben Harnwell. And so people are waking up to the fact that when these national defense, what exactly are we doing? What are we paying for? This complete scam regarding to Ukraine. It is rotten from the beginning. I'm so proud of this show from even the run up to it, from the very first day. We have called every shot about this scam that's going on. And one of the reasons we've done that is Ben Harnwell. I got to give a hat tip to Ben Harnwell, to Jack Posobiec, and to Boris Epstein, all three who know the neighborhood and have just done incredible reporting. Ben, I'm going to turn it over to you. We got about 12 minutes. I know you got a lot to go through. This is very important because this is in the middle of this firestorm for the National Defense Authorization Act. Ben Harnwell, the floor is yours, brother.
Thank you, Steve. Well, first off, good evening to you. I'm going to ask Denver to put up the photo that we used yesterday. That's really the pivot point, I think, of the whole of my exposition this evening. So there we see President Zelensky abandoned by all of the heads of state and heads of government at Vilnius at the annual NATO summit yesterday. Part of the reason why no one even really wanted to make eye contact with him it was because of his bitching and whining on the eve of the summit, saying that it was absurd and unprecedented that he wasn't being given a timetable to enter the alliance. And this provoked a response that we covered yesterday on the show when Jake Sullivan, the U.S. National Security Advisor.
But hang on. I want to make sure people, before we go to Sullivan, why this is so important. This guy was such a hot rock star that everybody wanted to do was be close to him, to touch him, to be in the photo with him. But the thing that's so stunning about this is this big coming out party of NATO. He's been so surly and so ungrateful that they're going out of their way not to be in the photograph with him. Before, it would make your career to be anywhere near his aura, right? The amazing thing is nobody actually wants to go now because they understand it's toxic. Am I incorrect in that assessment, Brother Harnwell?
No, of course not, Steve. You're absolutely correct. In fact, if we were in the medieval Catholic age, he would be a living, walking first-class relic because like the caressing and the stroking would confer sanctity, no more. So Jake Sullivan said yesterday, I think the American people do deserve a degree of gratitude from the United States government and from the rest of the world as well. Hold on to those words, degree of gratitude, which is obviously a slap down to Kiev. Today, now, if I'd be very grateful if Denver could bring up the Telegraph article, which is the first in my list. There's been further movement on the gratitude point, and that is Ben Wallace, who is the UK's defence minister, said on the same point. He said that there really needs to be a slight word of caution, which, whether we like it or not, people want to see gratitude if you're persuading countries to give up their stocks. Now, this is directly in relation, again, to the statements that Zelensky had made. And Wallace went on to say that we're not Amazon, and that last year he drove 11 hours to be given a list of requests. Now that we're not Amazon throwaway remark, actually he attributed to things that he'd heard privately from US lawmakers. So I think there is now, and this is really important, we didn't know this yesterday, we speculated at it. Now I think it's coming clear into view that this lack of gratitude is now, I would suggest, it's a coordinated response. First brought out in the US, then in the UK, and perhaps we'll start to see other defense ministers.
But hang on. But hang on 1 second. I just want to make sure the audience understands this. You're saying the defense minister also feels like the guys are too high and mighty. They're kind of ordering him around. They're saying, we're not Amazon. You just can't give me a list and I automatically, in England, I have a budget crisis of my own. I have a healthcare crisis. I have all these crises of where government money is supposed to go. The defense budget has been shrinking, and there's this huge fight in Parliament about exactly what's the meaning and purpose. It's like it's a small version of our NDAA, but it's big for England because of the money they've got. They're having a huge fight over there about what is their defense budget. And remember, the British, as I put up the chart yesterday, we're at 3.5% of GDP. The Poles, I think, are at 2.5%. The British are the only other people that get close to 2%. So when you talk about NATO, remember, they're out of the EU. They're Brexited out to get their sovereignty back. This issue of the money allocated in a civil society for defense is paramount, and particularly given Britain's the beating they took in both world wars, which really destroyed a generation of manhood. And it's one of the reasons that we talk about that the pound immediately right after the war stopped being the prime reserve currency. The economy kind of collapsed. They turfed Churchill out. 90 days or 3 or 4 months after the war was over, Churchill, the great war leader who they love, boom, gone because the economy is such a shambles. Here, the Ukrainians treat them like they're just order takers. And that's what the power of his thing. He says, hey, I think I need a little gratitude, but more importantly, don't think we're just Amazon. Don't think you just give us a list. And this comes, Ben, from how they're treated by the mainstream media here in the United States. MSNBC and CNN has all these people on pontificating, and it's, the Ukrainians, Zelensky, and they've got that attitude. They can just order people around. This thing in Britain is actually more powerful than Jake Sullivan. Jake Sullivan's kind of worming around through it. The British UK guy was basically saying, we got our own issues. We got to defend ourselves. We've given you so much ammo. We don't have any ammo now. And this is what I've said from day one, that a free people, whether it's in France or Italy or Spain or the United Kingdom or wherever in NATO and Western Europe, they're going to understand that this is just not a freebie, right? And the British UK minister says, I'm not Amazon. Don't hand me a list. The guy talked about he drove 11 hours through essentially a war zone, 11 hours to be given some list of stuff. Here's your list. Can you get the list? Can you call back to the home office and let's move it, boy? You're like a stock boy, Ben Harnwell.
That's absolutely true, Steve. But, in fairness to Zelensky, the fact that he's treating the Western world like a personal group of his own private bitches, it's because we've encouraged him to do this. We might be sort of griping now about the lack of gratitude, but it's somewhat of a passive-aggressive response on behalf of the America, NATO, and the rest, because it's our own messaging that we've been giving directly to President Zelensky from the beginning, that we're in this for as long as it takes. Those words, by the way, being in this for as long as it takes, were repeated yet again for the nth time by President Biden in Vilnius. Now, the reason, Steve, I called that specific Telegraph article was relevant, even though the headline was completely, the headline was Joe Biden delivers speech at NATO summit. You have to scroll down for about 30 seconds before you get to the part about Ben Wallace and UK Defence Secretary asking for gratitude. You have to scroll down so much your index finger on their mouse starts to get a bit of arthritis. It's scroll down for about 30 seconds and then talk about a buried lead, okay? Because I think that I don't know why that's not on the front page of a newspaper. It really is all the way down. Now, moving on, if I may, to Denver. Can I have the Reuters article, please? Senators offer bill to block any US president from leaving NATO. Because here's some good news for Kiev, because even if we're starting to itch a little bit and to gripe under the expectations of financing a war on the eastern confines of Europe, it doesn't look as if we're going to be able to do much about it. Why? Because even if this is the Uni Party in all of its unglory, right? Even if Donald Trump wins next year in 2024, what's currently being moved principally by Senator Tim Kaine, but also he's very keen to point out a whole handful of Marco Rubio. Right? So when you see the name Marco Rubio co-sponsoring a bill, you really need to run for the hills. In fact, if I'd go as far as say this is Harnwell's 12th aphorism. When I hear the word bipartisan, I reach for my wallet. Right, with all due apologies Herman Goering.
But hang on, hold it, hang on a second. We only got a couple of minutes. I want to end with this. I know we got other stuff to go through, but I want to take time and do it tomorrow. This is 1,000% because this shows you their fear that Trump really is coming back to Washington. Mm-hmm. This shows you the momentum. All day we've talked about the polling. We've talked about the fall of the institution. We've talked about, with Rasmussen, Trump's approval. The more they use lawfare in the administrative state against him, the more independents and other people are coming to his cause. Mm-hmm. This is the uniparty led by Marco Rubio. Mm-hmm. Marco Rubio just had this amazing book that came out, and maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow with you, called The Decades of Decadence or something like that, about the elites, the uniparty elites in our country selling out the country. He anti-neoliberal neocon. Now he floats back right back to neocon. This is 100% the fear. This bill is so that Trump cannot remove us from NATO unilaterally. Am I correct, sir?
No, Steve, you're absolutely correct. And this is right up in your face, right? Because, even this out of touch, corrupt political class of sociopathic overlords that we have throughout the world, and principally in the United States, even they're so sort of autistically oblivious to what's going on in the real world. The pain that ordinary working families have, working 2 jobs just to make it to the end of the month, right? Even if they're insulated in their little bubble, they are starting to realize that they have lost the popular support, right? There's no pretense now that this is really government with the consent of the people. They know, and that's why they're trying to lock in all of their outrageous, like this thing here, NATO. What did they say when Sweden was allowed in, when they were celebrating and patting themselves on the back in Lithuania this week? They said, right, Biden himself said it, letting Sweden into the alliance will make even Americans safer. No explanation as to how it could possibly make Americans any safer having a Scandinavian country, which most people couldn't identify on the map, right? Exactly.
Draw us into a Baltic skate. Real quickly, what's your social media? We got 30 seconds. We got to bounce.
All right. It's at Harnwell, which is my surname, Steve, on Getter. Please go, folks, warm and positive to my Getter, because of my profile. I've got some great stuff up right now about the NATO.
His stuff is great. I finally figured out that Ben is better at night. I think he may have an adult beverage later in the afternoon, which is customary in Italy. Ben, thank you so much. We're going to be back at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and Ben will be with us sometime during the day. See you tomorrow.